You'll be surprised when you learn this. It is incredible how conventional wisdom on money flips when you're part of the wealthy elite, and there's two areas where that's truer than anywhere else: taxes and bankruptcies. Robert Kiyosaki wasn't having any of it when a host tried to goad him with a question about his company's bankruptcy filing, and for good reason. That's because there's so much I need to tell you about the financial tools used by the rich to gain leverage in business. Of course, this is not financial advice, so always do your own research, but subscribe to the channel and watch Robert's response before I tell you more about it.
You had touched on this earlier in our interview, but in 2012, Rich Global LLC ended up filing for bankruptcy. And you guys were ordered to pay $24 million to the Learning Annex. Can you talk about what happened there?
I'd really rather not. Okay,
Fair enough.
what we're talking about, it was just a political move. Bankruptcy is a way of getting out of a bad situation. But everybody thinks of it as terrible. It's just a strategic move. So if you want to know about it, call my fucking attorneys. Okay?
Fair enough.
Now, while the specifics of that particular bankruptcy filing are shrouded in a degree of legal secrecy, I do think it's the perfect jumping board to talk about something that's not conventional knowledge in finance. While something like a bankruptcy filing may come across as a financial disaster, there's a component that the rich use as a leverage to business. Filing for bankruptcy under something like Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code allows a company to prevent liquidation and instead move toward reorganization of owed debts. It's a way of buying time under legal protection from creditors and using that as a negotiation tool to restructure debt obligations without hurting operations of the company, and it's absolutely crucial for a company, which would otherwise have to liquidate its assets and stop operating in order to deal with its creditors. And most of all, an official bankruptcy filing can serve as a restoration of power between two parties, as it can halt legal actions in lawsuits temporarily, making it much more likely that the two parties will just negotiate terms of debt and payment plans. That's why you hear people like Robert, as well as Donald Trump, who had filed for bankruptcy 6 times in his career. While that may be a good talking point against him by his detractors, bankruptcy filings are just another tool of the rich in the world of finance that allows them greater leverage and control in business proceedings.
Based on research I did, at one point you owned 6,500 pieces of property? Or is it more than that?
More than that.
Can you say how many you actually own?
It's about 12,000. Look, when I was 10 years old, my rich dad played Monopoly with me. And we all know the formula: 4 greenhouses, 1031 tax deferred exchange. So today I own about 12,000 rental units, but it's not the story. The real story is, how did I acquire those property? I used debt. And that's what they don't teach you in school. You see, the more debt I use, the more property I own, the less tax I pay.
And that's exactly what's on the front end of things like the bankruptcy filings that make for a headline spin. Using debt comes with its risks, which is why it's difficult to pass a singular judgment or recommendation for it on the general population. Debt, much like bankruptcies, are a tool, but only for the people that understand that risk or how to use them. For example, many CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg draw a salary of $1 a year officially. And that sounds like a strange financial decision to someone on the outside, but it starts to make sense once you understand how debt plays a part in it. Those CEOs can massively reduce their taxable income with a nominal salary like that by instead choosing to borrow loans against their stock portfolio at much lower interest than they would pay in tax. All of this reveals one thing above all else: financial instruments and moves that the common man would regard as off limits are often just tools in the great game of money that the rich use to get even richer.
And if you think paying taxes is legal, tax is a Marxist idea. Please, I hate this. And people say, well, you should pay taxes. No, we shouldn't. What Marx says is that a progressive and oppressive income tax is essential for the spread of Marxism, communism. That was in 1848. America was founded, let's look at the facts. This is what pisses me off about academic types. The facts are, America was founded as a tax-free nation. It was called the Boston Tea Party. I think it was 1773. And we were tax-free for all of these years until 1913, when the Fed was created. In 1913, the Fed was created. The same year, guess what else was created? The IRS, Amendment 16. And ever since then, we're paying taxes. So guys like me pay no taxes legally. But the more harder you work, the more money you make, the higher taxes you pay. If that's not communism, what is? And I think it's an American duty not to pay our taxes. because if you read the Communist Manifesto, you'd understand why.
That attitude to taxes is expected from an ardent capitalist like Robert Kiyosaki, but it certainly is an interesting window into how taxation has been on a steady march forward in America, despite the nation partly starting off as an opposition to aggressive taxation. Right now, individual high earners can end up paying as much as a third of their income in taxes, translating 4 months where they're basically working for the government. And it just so happens that the sliding scale of taxation is the single greatest barometer for whether an economy is moving forward toward individualism and capitalism or toward a collective form of socialism and even communism. The United States today employs a progressive form of taxation, which means the higher you earn, the higher percentage of income you pay as tax. That's one of the most core demands of the Marxist creed as it sought to equalize economies throughout redistribution. The Communist Manifesto laid this out in as clear terms as possible, calling for a, quote, heavy progressive or graduated income tax as one of the chief ways the socialist utopia would be achieved. Everyone agrees that a basic form of taxation is needed to run the basic functions of government and the defense of the country at large, but the rise in taxation along with rise in national debt and the size of government is sure to irk people that believe in capitalism and the free market. Even Donald Trump back in 2016 expressed his general disdain for taxes and the way the government spends money.
Real quickly, when are you going to release your tax returns?
Probably over the next few months. They're being worked on right now.
What's the holdup?
They're very big tax returns. The biggest, I guarantee you this, the biggest ever in the history of what we're doing. So it's a very complicated stuff, but we'll be releasing them.
Will people be surprised at the rate that you pay?
I think they'll be surprised at how little I pay.
Lower or higher than expected?
No, they're going to be surprised at how little I pay. I fight like hell not to pay a lot of tax. And you know what? Every politician probably does. I watched others where they say, oh, I want to pay tax. I fight like hell not to pay tax. I hate the way the government spends my money.
Perhaps there's a degree of honesty there that his base finds appealing, and if you look at the past century, there's one thing that starts to become clearer. It's the taxation, national debt, and the size of government are almost trapped in a vicious cycle. A bigger government causes the national debt to rise, and the high debt causes taxation to rise, leading to a larger government. Today is estimated that 39 cents on every dollar an American pays in income tax goes to servicing the interest on the national debt, not even the principal. And that's the bleak picture that a capitalist could tell you that can only be solved by actively working to reduce the size of the government and letting the free market reign supreme. While most capitalists and businessmen believe it, perhaps Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump are among the few that actually say it up front.